Second.
Okay, good. Yeah, it always startles me too when the robot lady comes on. So, hi everyone. Welcome to our webinar, How to Caucus. Caucus is such a weird word and a very confusing thing. So we are here today, my friends and I, to show you what it's all about. Basically, caucus is a big community meeting where you can come together on a very micro level within your community, your literal neighbors. Like we always talk about neighbors in community, like your little literal neighbors. You come together and you have a really good discussion and learn more about who is running for office, who local candidates are, and you have a chance to go through the process to actually elect the leaders that represent your values. People are always like, who are these people that were picked to do this job? I'm like, you picked them. So if you really want to have a voice, we need to make sure that we are showing up on these very local levels like caucus. But like I said, it's really confusing. It's a really old, weird word. And we are here to clear all that up today. So our goal is to help you understand the purpose and of caucus and assembly, which happens right after. It's very important, the most important piece of this, and then ensure that you know what to do on those days, how to participate. And we're going to introduce you to some other great local candidates. So I'll go ahead and start. Like I mentioned, my name is Justine Sandoval. I'm the MC for today. And I am excited because I am running for House District 5. I am a candidate that is rooted in community, and I'm committed to fighting for justice right here where I live. I've actually been working and organizing on elections since I was 15 years old. My first ever campaign was a to help stop an English only ballot measure that would have banned bilingual education in Colorado. I remember knocking on doors and making phone calls and talking to people about why language equity matters. And when we defeated it, I knew from that moment that I wanted to serve people through policy and through activism because policy is actually very deeply personal to our lives. So now, after 20 years working on the ground, helping to pass meaningful policy and block some really bad policy too, I am ready to lead in the Capitol and do it from day one. And so I'm running to fight for economic justice, environmental justice, health justice, and of course, in Denver, especially housing justice, because I believe everybody deserves a healthy, stable life in the community that they call home. So that's a little bit about me and my area that I'm running in. You could check out my map here. If you're in my district, I would appreciate your support. But I would also like to introduce you to three other amazing candidates who are here today running this webinar. First, we have in House District 3, Gena Ozols. And then we also have Monica Van Buskirk, who's running in House District 9. And in Senate District 34, we have Chela, Garcia, Irlando. And they have all of their websites up here, including mine, and some of the areas that we represent. And you can find out more information on those candidates. So I'll go ahead and pass it along to everybody, and they can introduce themselves as we're going through. And I'll give it over to Monica, who's going to help you find out where to go and what to do and all the important things for Caucus Day. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Justine. Hi, you guys. I am Monica Van Buskirk, and I am running for the Superfine House District 9, which includes Glendale, Southeast Denver, and unincorporated Arapahoe County. I also will say, Justine, I've been a volunteer within my district for over a decade. I'm a mom, I'm a small business owner. And just today, I was actually up at the state capitol talking to a woman who is, she has hemophilia and she has very expensive medication that she needs to take every month. And she has gone without her medication for the last 6 months because of the way that her copay accumulator is working with her employer's insurance. And I said, you know what? We passed a bill 2 years ago about that. I remember testifying. I remember doing the research, and I remember sharing my research with the legislators. And so she went to go talk to somebody about how to enforce that law so that she can get started on the drugs that she has been missing out on for the last 6 months, which really impacts her health she's a single working mom. So that is exactly what you're talking about. That policy is really, really personal. I have had the privilege to work on many different bills, either as somebody who's helped draft the language or usually as the person who's implementing it. So I have a really strong bias towards bills that actually do what they say they're going to do and not just be a photo op. So check out House District 9, you guys. We have, I won't say the best parks, but we have really great parks and neighborhoods. Um, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about when we say, oh, I'm a House District 5 or I'm House District 9 or 2 or which Senate district I'm in. What does that mean? So this is a map of the different districts that you may live in. And you can see there's a zoom in of Denver because it's very populated. But this is how we organize. So when we talk about caucus and assembly, you organize by your geography and you do get to hang out with your neighbors. So when you go to caucus, you're going to go to the location that your county party has said this is where your House district and your precincts are going to meet. So go ahead and put in the chat which counties you guys are from. And that'll help us when we say, here's where you're going to go, here's how you're going to organize with your precincts. It'll be by your county. There's also a really awesome tool here that will tell you all of your districts that you are in and the elected officials who represent you in those districts. But that's gonna be the start, is to figure out which district are you in, so that you can figure out your caucus date, location, your assembly information, etc. Oh, cool. All right, Abby's answering the questions in the chat, so I don't have to. Let's start then with, as you're putting your locations, what is caucus? What is it? Justine said it's a weird word. It is a way where the parties can decide who their candidates and issues are that are most important, and that's what goes on the primary ballot. So it's especially important in areas where one party dominates the scene, like in Denver. You can get upstream of the ballot and you can be more impactful than when you get your ballot and you vote, which you should all do. But this is your voice has more impact during caucus. When you're at caucus, which is the first step, you're going to pick delegates. And I have this game controller up here because I say it's kind of like a game where you have to get through the different levels. So level 1 is you go to caucus. Level 2, you have to be selected as a delegate, and you do that within your precinct. Gena's going to tell you a little bit more about how that's going to happen in the meeting itself. But remember, level 1, you're trying to become a delegate. Once you are a delegate, then you get to go to assembly. And if corporate America has taught us nothing, it's how to go to multiple meetings and still survive. So this is what we're going to do here today. We're going to flex that muscle. When you're going to assembly, so at caucus, you get selected to be a delegate, then you go to assembly. That is where you start to get to hear from the candidates, and you get to have a voice and weigh in on which candidates should be on the ballot here in Colorado. So based on the different counties that people put in, we'll start to put in some information about which assemblies you're going to. But I will say for the entire state, you go to caucus, assembly, and then if you're a delegate at county assembly, you're eligible for the state assembly. Everybody across the state. That is going to be on March 28th down in Pueblo, and that is where you start to weigh in on your statewide candidates. But you got to get through this level 2 of becoming a delegate that goes to the right area or the right assembly. And I do have a little screenshot here of the form that you'll fill out when you're at the meeting to say, yes, I want to be a delegate. So what is the goal? You get through caucus, you get through assembly, you get into the room where you are able to vote on the candidates that you really care about. And that's when you get this. I hope everybody knows Mario enough to see this image and go, right? That happens when you get 30% of the delegates to vote for your candidate of choice. There's a lower bar if you're also collecting petition signatures. But what does this mean for you as somebody who's participating in all of this and being a delegate? Like I said, you get to have even more impact for the candidates that you support. House districts represent about 55,000 people. Senate districts represent about 115,000 people. And so if there's a handful of you in the room, you get to have an outsized impact. It also means that the candidates care a lot about what you have to say. So if there's an issue you really care about, this is the time to ask questions and get thoughts from people, change the conversation that's happening in the room. And it does mean you get to help shape the party. There's a part that we're not going to go into as much here, where you get to weigh in on the party platform and what are the things that the party takes up and votes on as a platform. And the last part, of course, that Justine talked about is getting to know your community. I remember being in a caucus room where people were figuring out that the one person's cat hangs out in the other person's backyard because it really was neighbors getting together and they didn't have that connection other than meeting at caucus. So it's fun too. With that, I'm going to hand it over to the technically savvy candidate, Gena Ozols. I'm going to give you back control. There you go.
Perfect. Thank you. I was gonna say, I'm like, I can't come off of mute until you give me control back, Monica. But thank you for that overview. And so obviously, this is like, as Justine mentioned, as Monica mentioned, like, this is kind of a weird process. It's kind of a convoluted process, but I'm going to walk you through a little bit kind of visually what this looks like and then what your meetings are going to actually look like. But first, I'm running for office, so I get to talk about myself as part of the thing, right? And so my name is Gena Ozols. I am running for Colorado House District 3, which contains all of the municipalities of Sheridan, Englewood, Cherry Hills Village, and a sliver of Southeast Denver. So I usually just say all of the parts of Denver that are south of Hamden, as you can see on this map here. And the interesting thing with House District 3 is that it is not only an extremely diverse community in, racial demographics and life experiences, but also in economics. Sheridan is routinely rated as one of the lowest income municipalities in the state, whereas Cherry Hills is rated one of the highest. And one of the reasons that I'm actually running is that I want to help increase the quality of life for everyone running across this district. Everyone deserves the same level of opportunity that we see in the more affluent parts of this district, and I want to bring that to the state of Colorado. Thank you. And I want to also say thank you for joining for this event. I feel like these types of events are one of the other big reasons why I'm running. I've been a coalition builder for my entire career, and I tend to look and I say, hey, there's amazing women, amazing progressives who are also trying to make this world a better place. I want to pull them all together and see how we can work together. So I really appreciate you all being here. So what actually happens at the caucus specifically? So, both Justine and Monica shared a little bit of like that 10,000 foot, you meet your neighbors, you do, but the actual mechanics of the meeting. So when you go to caucus, you're going to start out likely in one big kind of set meeting area. If you have an in-person location, you'll probably end up in the high school's auditorium or gymnasium or something like that. You'll be kind of explained the evening together, and then you're going to break out to your precincts. Precincts are what we call it's like basically the smallest size region that we talk about when we talk about political organizing. And so your precinct is going to be that surrounding neighborhood. So when you break off into your precinct, and obviously if you're online, you're going to be breaking off into breakout rooms on a Zoom to go into your precinct meetings. And in these meetings, you and your neighbors are going to get a packet. And you're going to sit and you're going to look at this packet and you're going to elect someone to run the meeting. And during that meeting, you are going to all share about your favorite candidates, why you're supporting someone or why you're not. And then by the end of that meeting, you will have elected two precinct organizers for your precinct. These are folks that were kind of like a liaison with the party. It is actually a party official position, and you get lists of folks in your neighborhood to help organize. You get to work with the county parties in terms of, getting other Democrats involved. It's actually a very cool position. But the cooler thing about it is that you also then become a member of what we call the vacancy committee. And the vacancy committee is an extremely important thing, especially in Colorado, where we have seen a lot of state legislators in particular step back from their role in the middle of the term. And then how do they get replaced? Well, the members of the vacancy committee vote on who should be placed into that vacancy. So becoming a precinct organizer is not only a really, really great way to get to know your neighbors and to get connected to the party, but it's also how you get onto that vacancy committee, which is a huge responsibility and honestly something that we need more of because we need less times where like 30 people are selecting these vacancy fills. So And then as Monica talked about, the other thing that you're going to do is you're going to elect delegates to your county assembly based upon the votes for the top race that is currently happening. So as of a few months ago, and for the Democrats, that was the governor race. And now it's actually the US Senate race. So when you take that vote, you're going to say, you're going to have in the room folks are going to say, and depending on how you vote, you might be voting online, so make sure to bring your phone. You might have a paper ballot. You might have a hand raise. It kind of depends on how your county and how your precinct actually runs that section of the meeting. But you're going to get asked, do you like Julie Gonzalez for US Senate, or do you like John Hickenlooper for US Senate? And there is another candidate as well, Karen Breslin. So you're going to be asked, which of these candidates do you prefer? Now, I want to note you are not being locked in forever here. Like, you are allowed to express your preference in this meeting. Once those preferences have been determined, you would then elect delegates to move on to the county assembly who will vote for one of those candidates. It is kind of weird, but remember, like if you've ever seen the presidential nomination process at the DNC, this is exactly actually the same thing. It's just being done on a smaller level. And so these delegates will move on based upon the numbers that happen in that preference vote in your precinct. And then the other thing you're going to do before you close out that meeting is you're going to recruit future election judges. And election judging is a super fun thing to do. It's, the absolute core of protection of democracy. And if you have any questions, we're happy to tell you a little bit more about that later on. But so usually so now actually going into like the why do we do this, right? Well, because there's multiple different steps to actually getting on the ballot here in Colorado, and every state kind of operates differently. But basically, it boils down to candidates can either collect petition signatures, get those signatures verified, and then that gets them on the primary election ballot, where they go up against another member of their own party and then are selected as the party nominee before they go on to the general election. But the caucus process is actually a lot more of an organizing based method. Collecting petition signatures sounds like it's more of an organizing method, but it actually takes a lot of time, energy, and money in particular for folks to collect petition signatures. We estimate that it often takes about $45 per signature in order to collect these. And so the caucus process actually allows those with less funding but more community connections to actually get onto the ballot without having to raise all of this extra money to run the petition process. So the caucus in March moves to the nominating assemblies, which happen March through April. And then the candidates, as Monica explained, who gets more than 30% at the assembly, those candidates then go on to the primary election ballot. So it's a little bit more of an actual organizing method. So I know a lot of this sounds really confusing, right? And you're like, wait, this an election judge and precinct but here's the thing. I want you to remember caucus and assembly actually is as simple as a 10 caucus, go to the candidate nominating assembly. It is actually that simple. Where it starts to get more confusing is where you have something like a multi-county district where folks have to go to their county assembly before they can get to their district assembly. Now, if you're Chela and you're Justine, you got lucky and your districts are all within Denver. So you just have to go to the Denver assembly. Where if you're Monica or me, you actually have to go to the Denver and Arapahoe assemblies. Then you have to go to your candidate nominating assembly. So that's where it tends to get confusing. But ultimately, it actually is as simple as what we're showing you here. You go to caucus, and then you go and become a delegate for the candidate nominating assembly where the candidate you care about is running. And so, as I mentioned, that's where it gets a little confusing. You might have to stop into county assembly, everyone has to go into county assembly, but sometimes those are on the same dates. So what does that look like in real life? Well, it looks like starting out at caucus, you make your choice between Julie and John. All due respect to Karen, but I think we have our two front runners here, so that's why I only went with the two photos. But you make your choices here at caucus. You move on to your single county, so your county district assemblies. That's where you're going to be able to vote for folks like Chela and Justine. And then from there, if you want to go to your multi-county assembly, That's where you move on from there. Your congressional district assembly operates the exact same way. So CD6, for instance, with Jason Crow, he doesn't have a primary, but he still has to be nominated as their candidate. CD1, however, has a primary. Wanda James, Diana DeGette, and Melot Kiros are all running against each other. So they have to go to the CD1 candidate nominating assembly. And then, as Monica mentioned, your state assembly, you're going to cover, we're going to cover those US Senate choices, the governor choices, and then folks like Secretary of State, Attorney General, and Treasurer as well. So with that, clear as mud, I'm sure, but I'm going to turn it over to my friend Chela to walk you through some additional resources and some commonly asked questions and help lead our Q&A.
Hi everyone, my name is Chela Garcia Irlando, and I'm running for State Senate, District 34, to represent West North and downtown Denver. So my district is solely within the city and county of Denver. So I will try my best to answer the multi-county questions if any arise. But I am a mom. I run an environmental nonprofit and have been connected and a part of this district for over 2 decades. Knocked thousands and thousands of doors here, and just really excited to fill the legacy that Senator Julie Gonzalez is leaving behind at the state capitol. Next slide, please. So I believe this link was already dropped in the chat, but because there are multiple county candidates on this call, you can find your schedule at this link. For Denver specifically, our caucuses are this Tuesday, March 3rd, and then County Assembly is the 14th. I believe there are a handful of other dates for the multi-county, so I won't go into those. Next slide, please. Actually, I do want to make a quick note. For Arapahoe, I believe you have to pre-register for caucus to be able to attend because it is virtual. I see Gena nodding her head, so I'm on point there.
Yes, correct. Everyone needs their own individual pre-registration in certain counties. Yes, and Arapahoe is one of them.
Yes, and as she mentioned earlier, you will get a link specific to yourself. So the other thing I want to highlight is that anybody, whether you're a Democrat, unaffiliated, under 18, you can register to participate as an attendee. And also want to highlight that kids are welcome at caucus and assembly. So even if you're under 16, or you're a parent and still want to participate, please, please, please bring your kids. It is important for not only you to participate, but for them to see this democratic process in action. I will most likely be bringing my daughter with me as well. The other common question is, what's the difference between caucus, assembly, and the primary? So caucus is, again, the neighborhood level where you're with your individual precincts. It's a radius of maybe like 15-ish blocks, depending on where you live and how dense your neighborhoods are. Assembly is where delegates from caucus go to county or multi-county assemblies, and then they elect delegates to go to state assembly, as Gena mentioned. And then the primary is when the candidates who get on the ballot is where all voters get to vote. Next slide, please. So other frequently asked questions, if you cannot attend caucus, if you can only attend caucus but not assembly, you can still ask to be elected as a delegate. And then you can find a proxy, or we can help you find a proxy to go to assembly. Let's say you're out of town during assembly, or you have a work commitment, or anything else comes up, you can have a proxy. And I also want to elaborate, this is information I got at office hours from the Colorado Dems this week, but a fellow delegate, Democratic delegate from caucus going to assembly can be your proxy. So they can carry 2 votes. So I just want to clarify that, because if you have, you and your partner, let's say, are going to precinct caucus, you both get selected delegates, you have to work or you have another commitment or you're out of town, you can give your proxy vote to your partner, even though they're also a delegate. So wanted to clarify that because that's been a big question that I've been asked. Another question is, what if I don't care or like any of the top ticket candidates? Let's say you don't like Hickenlooper or you don't like Julie Gonzalez. You can also always be an uncommitted delegate. So until you get to assembly, you don't have to commit to the top level candidate. And there's a strategy behind that. I'll let you all decide what the best strategy is for your specific race. But sometimes uncommitted get a lot of phone calls from candidates at the top tier level. So just FYI, if you choose to go the uncommitted way, you're going to get lots of phone calls. You'll probably get lots of phone calls anyways for the down ballot races. And then what if I'm not a Democrat, but I still want to attend? Everybody is welcome. You can volunteer, you can table with us. At caucus, they're not allowing candidates to have tables, but at assembly, we absolutely need volunteers. And of course, this is a public meeting. This is a public event. So anybody, even if you're a Republican, I hope nobody on this call is a Republican, but even if you're a Republican, you can attend our caucus and assembly because these are open meetings. And so we hope to see you there. I think that's everything we've gone. Oh, and then here are additional resources. I know that we'll be sending up follow-up emails with links, but also happy to answer any questions in the chat if Abby has not already answered them. Anyone else? Awesome. Well, with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Gena.
So yeah, just highlighting for folks. So again, if you are in HD3 or HD9, you're going to have that multi-county. So take a look at again, we're going to start with your county. Your county is going to tell you what your caucus night is. And then your districts are going to tell you who your candidates are and which assemblies you would be able to attend. So for the four of us that are here, these are our primary dates. Obviously, you can check out everyone's websites for more information. And then, of course, we are here and happy to answer any other questions that you all might have for today. So we'll give one last shot.
Yep. And fun fact, if you were in House District 5, you can caucus for me and Chela. So in some areas. So look for both of our names at caucus night.
And if you're in House District 3 or 9, when you come to caucus and assembly, I will have activities for kids and we'll have some local babysitters there to help manage the kids. Justine, you got a question, so I'll let you go.
Oh, okay. Someone run us through what day of look like for caucus and for assembly. So for caucus, usually you'll show up, there'll be people there outside with flyers and information for each candidate and campaigning. So you'll go in, you usually go into one main room. And I know specifically, I went to the Denver session the other night for some information. You'll go into a main room and then they'll break you out by your precinct. So you'll go into your different precincts groups, and then from there is when you'll have like the actual voting and meeting. We had mentioned that some places are going to be voting by phone and some by paper ballot. Denver is going to be doing it all electronically. So be prepared to answer those questions on your phone. But it's actually really cool because it'll go a lot faster. Because in the past, you have to do paper ballots and then someone in the group has to do math. So, and if you're like me, you don't want to be the math person. So this is actually going to go a lot smoother. And then that's about it. They'll do the straw polls they'll decide, and then they'll pick who's going to be delegates. You'll get all the information of where to go on March 14th. And that's it. That's it for caucus night, really. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is you'll go in before you go in off into your precincts, you'll hear from candidates. Who are there, and they'll give you speeches beforehand. And then you'll also, when you get into your breakout groups, have information on each of those candidates you're going to be voting on, or doing a preference poll on. And then for the day of assembly, it's also just another really big meeting. It'll be at South High School that day for Denver. I believe you're all virtual, right? In the other two, I'll let you explain that. I'll run through Denver. So it'll be in person at a rep at South High School, and it'll be in the auditorium, and then we'll go ahead and do voting from there. People will break out and vote within their precincts, and the same thing happens all over again. We'll elect people to go to the state, be delegates to the state, and that's pretty much it. Just it's a meeting. It's a very quick meeting. Well, not always quick. The caucus is quick. We'll see how quick that goes. It could be a day that you really want to make sure that you can commit to being there all day to see the process through. But hopefully they can get it through very quickly. But that's basically it. So I hope that answered it. I know I get a little rambly, but if you have any other questions or want more specifics, let us know. And Gena or Monica, if you want to give a little breakdown of how your caucuses will work on and assembly will work in the other counties.
Oh, Gena has put a written description in the chat, and I'll just say in Arapahoe, we're going to be the caucus is going to be online, and then when you split into your precincts, you're going into breakout rooms. So you just gotta hang out on the Zoom. And then our in-person assembly for Arapahoe is actually going to be just a few days later. So the caucus is on March 3rd, and the in-person assembly is March 7th at Hinckley High School out in Aurora. And then Justine, I know you have 2 locations for caucus, and Chela, you have a few locations for caucus as well.
Yeah, our House District 5 is split into 2 different locations for caucus night. If you are north of Colfax, you'll be going to Tre Vista, formerly Horseman Middle School, I think. Yeah, Tre Vista. And then if you are south of Colfax, you'll be going to DCIS, formerly Baker Middle School, off of like 6th and Alatty. So that'll be 2 locations. So make sure that you know north of Colfax, south of Colfax for those 2 different locations.
And for SD34, it includes those locations that Justine just mentioned, as well as for HD4, you will be at North High School. And for the 2 precincts in HD1, I need to send those via email because I don't recall the elementary school that they are at because it's way in Southwest Denver. So yeah.
Chela, if you want to make sure to get me those right when we're done, Abby and I will make sure to add it to our follow-up email for everybody.
Well, you're welcome, everyone. We're glad it was helpful. And please don't hesitate to reach back out to us with more questions. If you're like trying to figure it out, night of or whatever, shoot, as a message, and we'll get it along to our people to try to help you out and make sure that you were there. It's all about showing up. So we're ready to show up for you all. We just need you to show up for us at caucus and assembly and show up for those candidates that you support and who reflect your values. And thank you all so much. And look up for that follow-up email with any information. And yeah, see you at caucus, everyone.